A narrator talks about magic and how it was systemized as an actual technology at the dawn of the 21st century. He says that it is the end of the 21st century, and under the circumstances, every nation is competing in the race to develop magicians. A small girl watches her brother on a screen. He holds a gun and shoots at targets in a distance while she muses to herself. At a school, there is an announcement that the rehearsals for the matriculation ceremony will begin soon, and that all concerned parties should gather in the auditorium. A girl is upset and asks her brother why he is a reserve. She says he is the one who got the top scores in the entrance exams. He tells her that practical magic skills are given more weight than paper test scores. He says that he is lucky that he was accepted at first high school, even as a reserve. She starts her rant again and he yells her name and tells her that there's nothing to be done. She apologizes and he pats her on the head and tells her she is always getting angry in his place. He tells her that it makes him happy and he perks up when she does that. He tells her he is not lying and tells her that he cares about what she is doing. She gets excited when he says that. He walks up to her and tells her that even if she turns down the speech, there is no way a Course 2 student like him would get picked to take her place. That gets her attention. He tells her that he is looking forward to her speech and wants to see his sweet kid sister in all her glory. She apologizes for being selfish and goes off to the rehearsals. She tells him to watch out for her. Students file into the auditorium. Tatsuya walks in too and identifies the different groups of students. He says the half sitting in front are blooms, and the half in the back is weeds. Just as he takes a seat, a girl comes up to him and asks him if the seat beside him is taken. He says no, and she thanks him and sits down. She introduces herself as Shibata Mizuki. He introduces himself, and the girl beside Mizuki introduces herself as Chiba Erika. She remarks on how similar their surnames sound, and Mizuki is amazed. The matriculation ceremony begins. The student council president gives her speech, and it is time for the newly enrolled students to give their speech. Tatsuya's sister, Miyuki, is called up to give the speech. The ceremony ends and students stream out of the auditorium. Mizuki asks him if Miyuki is his sister, and he says she is. Erika asks him if they are twins, and he explains that his birthday is in March and hers is in April. He is surprised that Mizuki figured out the connection. Just then, his sister runs up to him and thanks him for waiting. The student council president comes up behind her. Miyuki introduces herself to Mizuki and Erika. The student council people take their leave, and Miyuki apologizes to Tatsuya again. The quartet heads out. At home, Tatsuya asks Miyuki if something is wrong. She says she just got a call from some people congratulating her on starting high school. She gets upset and freezes the counter. Tatsuya tells her to calm down, and she does. The siblings run to a temple. As soon as they get there, Tatsuya is drawn into a fight with some monks. They have a conversation. Tatsuya draws their sensei into a skirmish, and Tatsuya ends up on his back. At school, Mizuki and Erika look on while Tatsuya works fast at the computer. They are amazed at his speed, and they meet a boy called Saijo Leonhardt. He tells them he specializes in convergence-type fortifying magic sequences. He asks Tatsuya what his signature magic spells are, and he tells him that he wants to become a magic engineer since he sucks at practical skills. Leo and Erika get into an argument, and Mizuki and Tatsuya referee and call them to order. At lunchtime, they all sit together and discuss. After school, so many people want Miyuki's attention, and Mizuki and Erika get upset on the siblings' behalf. It turns into a confrontation between blooms and weeds. The students meet the head of the disciplinary committee, Mari Watanabe, who comes to take their statements. Tatsuya covers for the blooms. Miyuki comes up and tells Mari that it was a misunderstanding and she apologizes for causing trouble. Mari is shocked and Mayumi steps in. She tells the students that it would be a good idea to refrain from any self-schooling that involves magic activation. Mari says she will look the other way this time and warns them not to repeat something of that nature. They all bow in apology, and Mari asks Tatsuya's name. He tells her, and she walks away and says she will remember his name. A surly bloom tells Tatsuya not to think that he owes him, and Tatsuya says he does not think he has anything over the boy, so he should not worry. The boy introduces himself as Shun Morisaki, a member of the main Morisaki branch. Miyuki tells them to go home. As they turn to leave, two girls walk up to them. One is Mitsui Honoka, and she apologizes and thanks Tatsuya for covering for her and tells him that it is because of him that the situation did not escalate. He accepts her apology, and she asks to walk with them to the station. As they walk to the station, Honoka asks Miyuki if Tatsuya is the one who keeps her CAD in working order. Miyuki says that he does it, and it sets her mind at ease. Tatsuya says he just makes minor adjustments, and Mizuki says that he wouldn't be able to do that unless he knew how the operating system works. Leo adds that he needs the skills to access the CAD's basic system. Erika explains that there is an engraving-type spell on her CAD, which makes it all hollow except for the hilt. Leo notes that she has to constantly feed it scions and asks how she doesn't run out of gas. She says it doesn't use up a lot of scions if she only transmits the scions at the moment of extension and impact, and that it is the same as the principle of helmet splitting. The rest of the group just stands and stares at Erika and Leo. Miyuki explains that helmet splitting is a technique categorized under secret skills or the arcane arts. The next day, Mayumi runs up to them. She greets both of them and they respond. Mayumi says she has something to discuss with Miyuki and she asks about their plans for lunch. At lunch, Miyuki and Tatsuya go to the student council office. They have lunch together, and Mayumi introduces the other members of the council. When they finish their food, they get to business. Mayumi explains that only the president is chosen by an election and that other officers are chosen and dismissed by the president. She wants Miyuki to join the student council as the first-year representative. Miyuki accepts the appointment. She tells them her brother is a better choice than she is and asks them if there's a way they can bring her brother on board. They tell her it won't be possible and that the student council officers are chosen from Course 1 students. She explains that it is a rule, and to overturn it, the entire student body would have to vote. Mari states that the student council has not filled their spot on the disciplinary committee, and Mayumi nominates Tatsuya for the job. Tatsuya says that they have not explained to him what the disciplinary committee does. He gets scolded, and Mayumi explains to him what they do. Just then, the bell rings and Mari says they should continue later. Tatsuya stands in line with his classmates in the magical experiment room and tells them about his appointment to the disciplinary committee. Erika aces the test, and it is Tatsuya's turn. It doesn't go so well. After school, Tatsuya and Miyuki find themselves in front of the student council room once again. The vice president introduces himself to Miyuki and ignores Tatsuya. Mari hustles Tatsuya off to the disciplinary committee headquarters. The vice president is opposed to Tatsuya being appointed to the disciplinary committee. Mari gets upset and gets into an argument with Hattori. She defends him and says the disciplinary committee needs his skills. She says she wants him on her team to bring an end to the discrimination against Course 2 students. Hattori complains to the president and Miyuki stands up for him. Tatsuya challenges Hattori to a simulated battle. Hattori accepts the challenge. Miyuki apologizes to Tatsuya for causing trouble for him. Tatsuya reassures her. The battle begins, and Mari explains the rules. Hattori plots his moves, but Tatsuya takes him down in barely 2 seconds and is crowned as the winner. The student council officials help Hattori up after his crushing defeat. Tatsuya walks away, and Mari stops him. She asks him if he deployed a self-acceleration spell in advance to make him faster. He says it was not magic that he used, but a physical technique. She says it looked to her as though he released scion waves. Tatsuya tells her that she is correct, and explains that he used an essential singularity type spell and generated scion waves. They say that it doesn't explain why Hattori got knocked out. Tatsuya says Hattori was wasted on scions. Mayumi asks him how he could emit such power. Suzune theorizes that Tatsuya used compound waves. He tells her that her theory is correct. She asks how he was able to pull that off in a short time. Azusa asks if Tatsuya's CAD is a Silverhorn. Azusa goes into fangirl mode, reciting all the accolades Taurus Silver has gained in his lifetime. She says that Silverhorn is the name of the specialized CAD model, fully customized by Taurus Silver and optimized for loop casting. Tatsuya says that at first high, multivariables aren't as subject to evaluation as processing speed, calculation scale, and interference intensity. Hattori has finally gained his senses back and says that in the practical exam, magic skill scores are determined by spell invocation speed, magic sequence scale, and target data rewriting strength. He says that he can now see what happens when tests do not reflect one's true abilities. Mayumi walks up to him and asks him if he is alright. He jumps up and says he is fine and apologizes to Miyuki for his speech about nepotism. Miyuki says that she was the one out of line and apologizes. Hattori walks out of the practice room, leaving the girls and Tatsuya staring after him. Mari takes Tatsuya to the disciplinary committee headquarters. He asks Mari if he can clean the place up and says that he finds the environment unbearable. She is surprised that he wants to be a magic engineer when he has great combat skills. He says that no matter what he does, he cannot hope for more than a level C license at his skill level. Mari reminds him of the reason she scouted him, and he tells her that her intentions can backfire. She asks him why he thinks that, and he says the Course 2 upperclassmen will not take kindly to being policed all of a sudden by a Course 2 younger student. She agrees, and says that since they've all just started at the school, they shouldn't be all that poisoned by discriminatory impulses. He tells her how he was treated the previous day by a Course 1 student. Mari asks if he is talking about Morisaki. He asks her if she knows him, and she tells him the boy will be joining the committee under a faculty recommendation. Just then, the other members of the disciplinary committee walk into the headquarters to give their report. They catch sight of Tatsuya and ask who he is. She introduces him and talks about what happened to Hattori. They are happy to have him on the team. Mari talks about her motivation for making her team as diverse as possible. She tells Tatsuya that she thinks he will be comfortable. The boys introduce themselves to Tatsuya. At home, Miyuki walks into her brother's room to ask him to recalibrate her CAD's restrictive type activation sequence to increase the personal combat variations. She feels she is lacking in the area of speed spells. He tells her to let him do some reconfiguring so she won't have to consume her magic. She takes off her robe and he scans her body in the machine. It's club recruitment week at First High. Mari tells them that it is a week of shenanigans. She introduces the two recruits to the committee and tells them they will be joining the patrol detail. She gives them their badges and their marching orders. Tatsuya asks if they can use the committee's items as CADs. She tells him they can, and he picks two. Morisaki yells at Tatsuya and storms away. Tatsuya sees Erika being manhandled by some club representatives, and he swoops in and carries her away. She asks him to keep her company, and he does. They visit the martial arts exhibition and talk about martial arts. Two clubs argue and Erika explains who they are and what they do. The Kendo Club and the Kenjutsu Club leaders battle. Before any real damage can be done, Tatsuya steps in and makes an arrest. The Kenjutsu Club members are not impressed that their leader is under arrest and tries to fight Tatsuya, but they all end up on the floor. Tatsuya gives his report in front of the club management group. He reports that he did not see how it started, but that he saw Ms. Mibu of the Kendo team and Mr. Kirihara of the Kenjutsu team arguing. Mayumi asked him why he didn't raise a hand at first. He said that he thought that if they were only going to end up with bruises, they should settle the score among themselves. Marie asked what he did with Kirihara after he subdued him. He said he handed him over to the health committee because he was injured. Mari says the disciplinary committee has no intention of sending the matter to the correctional committee. She asks Jumonji, the chairman of the extracurricular committee, what he thinks. Jumonji says he appreciates Tatsuya's lenient judgment. He says he will counsel Kirihara to learn from his mistake. Mayumi asks what he will do about the Kendo team. Mari asks Tatsuya again if Kirihara is the only one who uses magic. He answers in the affirmative. They thank him for his hard work, and he leaves. Leo, Mizuki, Erika, Miyuki, and Tatsuya are at a restaurant. They talk about Kirihara and the spell he used. Mizuki asks if the sonic blade releases high-frequency waves. Miyuki says her brother's taijutsu skills are superlative, and adds that her brother's specialty is nullifying magic sequences. She asks Tatsuya if he used cast jamming. Leo brings the conversation back around to cast jamming and Erika asks about the special rock they need to do that. Mizuki tells Erika that the rock is called Anti-Night, and it is extremely expensive. Tatsuya says he doesn't have any, and that Anti-Night is a military resource that no civilian can get their hands on. He tells them that what he used was something that applied the theories of cast jamming called specific magic jamming. They ask if that type of magic exists, and Erika says that it means that Tatsuya has come up with a new type of magic in theory. Tatsuya says that he stumbled upon it. Tatsuya continues his explanation and says that they can launch a magic sequence that causes one CAD to jam the other, and with the other CAD you launch an activation sequence that has the opposite effect. Leo says he understands the theory behind it but does not understand why it has to be off the record. Tatsuya says that the technique still hasn't been perfected, and the bigger issue is exposing the fact that magic can be blocked without Anti-Night. On the fourth day of club member recruitment week, Tatsuya is patrolling when he gets a call about a brawl happening in Gymnasium 1. He heads there and is ambushed by someone on the way. The person gets away, but he takes note of the armband the person is wearing. Miyuki shows up at his class, and as they walk through the hall, Mibu comes to meet Tatsuya. Turns out she is in the same class as he is, and she has come to thank him for his help. She asks him to hang out, but he tells her he will be able to hang out with her in 15 minutes. He escorts Miyuki to the student council room and has a conversation about Mibu with Miyuki. She tells him to be careful. He reassures her and goes to meet Mibu. Mibu thanks him again, and she asks him to join the Kendo team, and he declines. She asks his reason, and he turns around and asks her why she wants to recruit him. She explains her position to him and her motivation, and asks for his cooperation. He asks her about her plans. Tatsuya tells her to calm down, and he explains. The student council members deliberate on what he has told them. They talk about manipulation, and the organizations that may be behind such manipulation. Tatsuya is called into the counseling office by the guidance counselor. She tells him she needs his cooperation. He agrees, and she asks him some questions. She tells him to consult her if Mibu causes him any trouble. Mibu talks to an unidentified first high student who tells her that they need Tatsuya's power. At home, Tatsuya and Miyuki are seated on the sofa perusing information about an anti-magic group called Blanche. He says he spotted a student working with Blanche's subordinate organization, Egolite. He tells her Blanche doesn't advocate for the abolishment of magic. He explains what Blanche is about to Miyuki. Tatsuya and Mizuki test his magic speed. She stops and asks him if he doesn't feel bitter about being evaluated, like someone who has no talent, even though he has talent. He tells her that processing speed is also a crucial factor, and that the school is not far off the mark in labeling him as unskilled. She adds that timing-wise, he read the activation sequence and built his first magic sequence simultaneously. He tells her he is not studying magic for combat use, but to use it to develop energy. She is amazed by his explanation and his goals and aspirations. She says that she started studying magic to learn to control her eyes. She gets all fired up to achieve her goals. Mibu and Tatsuya meet again and she explains what she wants to do with her crusade. The main aim is to demand that the school improves the conditions of the Course 2 students. Tatsuya asks her the specific things she wants the school to improve. She says she wants them to improve all aspects of the way they are treated. He asks her if she is referring to how they are treated with their classes, and he explains to her that the main difference between Course 1 and 2 students is the availability or lack of instructors. He asks her if her goal is for the school to add more faculty. She says she doesn't intend to go that far. He asks her if she is referring to club activities. He tells her that he knows that the Kendo team is allotted the same amount of space as the Kenjutsu team. She asks him if he's saying that he's not disgruntled. He says that he is disgruntled, but that there's nothing in particular he wants the school to change. She is surprised at his answer, and he continues by saying that his expectations of the school as an educational facility only go so far. He tells her that as long as he can get clearance to read unpublished documents only made available at Magic University affiliated schools and get his diploma from a magic high school, there's nothing else that he needs. He tells Mibu that he does not share her principles and walks away. During school hours, an announcement comes up. A boy announces a volunteer coalition that seeks to abolish discrimination within the school. He demands an opportunity to negotiate on equal terms with the student council and the Extracurricular Activities Federation. Miyuki and Tatsuya run to the student council room. Mari chides them for being late and tells them that the power has been cut off, so the volunteer group cannot do any more broadcasting. In turn, the group locked the door and barricaded themselves inside with the master key. Tatsuya points out that stealing the master key is a crime, and Mayumi says that is the reason why they need to handle the matter discreetly. Mari wants them to resolve the matter quickly, even if it means using force. Tatsuya asks Jumonji his thoughts on the matter. He says he doesn't see any problem in negotiating with them. Tatsuya calls Mibu and talks to her. He tells her Jumonji has agreed to negotiate and gets them to come out. The people are taken into custody, and Jumonji agrees to listen to their demands. Mayumi tells them to release the students. She tells Mibu she wants to discuss the coalition's demands. Miyuki and Tatsuya meet Mayumi the next day and ask her about the negotiations. She tells them what happened and the decision to hold an open forum after school the next day. The coalition goes around recruiting Course 2 students to join the forum. Tatsuya rescues Mizuki from one of them and asks who he is. Mizuki says he is the captain of the Kendo team, Tsukasa Kinoe, who has hypersensitivity to spirit particle emissions like her. Tatsuya asks his sensei about Kinoe and gets information about him. Miyuki asks about Tsukasa's connection to Blanche, and he tells them that Kinoe's older stepbrother is the leader of Blanche's Japan branch, and he runs their activities. The forum is underway, and Mayumi does her best to answer the students while the rest of the student council watches from the shadows. Mayumi gives a moving speech and tells them she wants to do away with the nomination rule. She is applauded by the crowd. Just then, an explosion rocks the school. Coalition members are apprehended, and someone throws a gas bomb into the auditorium. Intruders try to take over the school, and Tatsuya and Miyuki go to check out the practical skills wing. Blanche is attacking first high. Tatsuya and Miyuki race to the practical skills lab. On their way, Tatsuya is ambushed and Miyuki comes to his rescue. Leo and Erika come running to help Tatsuya, who explains that the intruders are terrorists. They agree to fight back. The guidance counselor tells them that the terrorists' target is the library. She tells them that the main force has already gone in and Mibu is part of them. Tatsuya asks her if she wouldn't mind explaining this later. She accepts and asks him to do her a favor. The terrorists are fighting the students, and Leo fights them. The others talk about Leo's magic, and they leave him to fight. Tatsuya, Miyuki, and Erika get to the library. Tatsuya maps out the whereabouts of the terrorists in the library. Miyuki wonders what they are doing in the special reading room. Tatsuya guesses that they are trying to steal the Magic University's classified materials. Erika takes off to engage with the terrorists, leaving Tatsuya and Miyuki to get to the special reading room. Mibu is in there with the terrorists, wondering why they need cutting-edge magic research if their goal is to end magic discrimination in the school. She is having second thoughts when the terrorists gain access to the school's archives. They try to copy the data, and that is when Tatsuya and Miyuki arrive and break down the door. He destroys their equipment. Tatsuya tells Mibu that a world where everyone is equal and receives equal treatment does not exist. Miyuki tells Mibu that she has no contempt for her brother. She says that even if everyone in the world except her were to slander, disparage, and mock her brother, she would still give him the love and respect she always has. She tells Mibu that it is true that there are ignorant people who look down on her brother, but there are far more people who recognize how splendid he is. She tells Mibu that she feels sorry for her. She tells Mibu that Tatsuya certainly acknowledged her for her swordplay skills and her beauty. Mibu argues that those are just superficial things, and Miyuki tells her that they're just as much a part of her, that they define who she is. She reminds her that she only just met Tatsuya and asks her what she wants from him. Miyuki tells her that in the end, no one despises her as a weed more than herself. The terrorist calls out to Mibu and tells her to use the ring. The terrorists try to use the distraction of the smoke to attack Tatsuya, but he is too fast for them. Mibu tries to run and Miyuki wants to attack her, but Tatsuya tells Miyuki to back off. He says he is sure that Erika will capture Mibu for them. Erika introduces herself to Mibu to confirm her identity. Erika throws her weapon away while Mibu threatens her. They have a sword fight and Erika uses a self-acceleration spell. Mibu uses her ring to no effect. She says that Erika's technique is like Mari's, and Erika says her technique is quite different. They square up, and Erika disarms Mibu in one move. Erika reassures her and tells her to hold her head high because she made a Chiba daughter play for keeps. She is shocked that Erika is a member of the Chiba family. She says she is better at kenjutsu than Mari. Tatsumi waylays Tsukasa and accuses him of pulling the strings. They arrest him. The police are called and testimony is compiled against Tsukasa. Mibu tells them that he lured her to the Blanche branch office. She tells the student council the story of how Mari brushed her off when she asked her to teach her sword skills. Mari explains her side of the story, and it turns out it was a misunderstanding. She cries when she finds out. She asks a favor of him. They ask her where the Blanche people are, and Mayumi is concerned that Tatsuya wants to take them on in battle. He tells her he is going to demolish them. He tells them that he has plans to go after them on his own, and his friends say they will go with him. Miyuki asks how they are going to locate Blanche's headquarters. They find out that Blanche's headquarters is in an abandoned warehouse. They decide to go by car and break in. Jumanji agrees to go with them. Kirihara wants to go with them, but Jumanji refuses. Kirihara begs and Jumanji relents and agrees to let him come with them. The students are in the car on their way to Blanche's headquarters. Jumanji tells Tatsuya to issue the commands. He tells Leo to secure their retreat. He tells Erika to help Leo and deal with anyone who tries to escape. He tells Jumanji to head for the back exit with Kirihara. He says he and Miyuki will break in. They get to the place and he signals to Leo to begin his job. Leo activates his magic and they break through the gate. Tatsuya and Miyuki make their way through the warehouse, and he stops to figure out where the terrorists are. When he does, he tells her to follow him. They get to the main floor and are welcomed by Hajime. Tatsuya asks him point blank if he is the leader of Blanche. He introduces himself as the leader of Blanche's Japan branch, Tsukasa Hajime. Tatsuya points his CAD at him and tells him to surrender. He tells all the terrorists behind Hajime to put down their weapons and put their hands behind their heads. Hajime laughs at him and signals to the terrorists, and they train their weapons at Tatsuya. He asks Tatsuya to become one of them. He throws his glasses in the air and orders Tatsuya to join them as their comrade. He looks into Tatsuya's eyes. Tatsuya identifies his magic as consciousness interference type magic, Evil Eye, and names it correctly as a light wave oscillation magic spell. He says it is nothing more than hypnosis, and asks him if that is what he used to replace Mibu's memories. Miyuki asks him about it, and he tells her that Mibu's mangled memories were too intense to be natural. Miyuki calls them vulgar rogues. Hajime tries to find out how Tatsuya knew, and he explains that Hajime tries to draw his attention to his right hand by removing his glasses, diverting his gaze from his left hand that is controlling the CAD. Hajime runs away and Miyuki tells Tatsuya to pursue him. The men are afraid of Tatsuya, so they part so he can walk through. One of them tries to be the hero and rushes Tatsuya, but Miyuki freezes him. Tatsuya tells Miyuki not to overdo it, that the men are not worth getting her hands soiled over. She agrees, and he walks away. She tells the men that they are out of luck. She freezes them all and tells them to pray that she will spare their lives. They identify her magic as the Wise Range Oscillation Deceleration, type magic of Niflheim. She turns them into ice sculptures. Outside, the other men are firing at Jumanji and Kirihara. Jumanji has a shield, and Kirihara dances through their ranks, cutting guns and punching people. All the men end up on the floor. Tatsuya destroys more weapons, and Hajime tries cast jamming with Anti-Knight. Tatsuya identifies Blanche's patron as the pro-independence breakaway, Regine, Ukraine-Belarus. and his sponsor as the Great Asian Alliance. Hajime is shocked and orders his men to kill him. Tatsuya skewers the men instead, and Kirihara cuts open the door. Hajime wanted to run through. Kirihara asks who Hajime is, and Tatsuya tells him. Hajime tries to use cast jamming, but Kirihara cuts his hand off at the elbow. Jumanji powers Hajime down and asks if they have gotten everyone. Tatsuya answers in the affirmative. They call the police to pick up the criminals. Tatsuya goes to visit Mibu, and they talk about her hospital stay. He tells her that Tsukasa has also been hospitalized because he needs help with his memories, and that he will not face any criminal charges. When he steps out into the hallway, he sees Mr. Hayama, who reports to a woman in the Yotsuba family. He asks her if it would be wise to leave things as they are, and she says she is fine with it. Miyuki and Tatsuya go to the hospital to see Mibu on her discharge day, and see her being cozy with Kirihara. Miyuki gives Mibu flowers, and a man comes to ask Tatsuya who he is. He is Mibu's father, and he wants to talk to Tatsuya. He thanks him for helping his daughter recover. Mibu asks Tatsuya what he was talking about with her father, and he tells her that they were talking about an old mutual friend. He tells her it is a small world. Erika teases Mibu and Kirihara, and she confesses her admiration of Tatsuya and her attraction to Kirihara. Tatsuya talks about Kirihara and the dashing figure he cut when facing Blanche's leader. As they walk home, Miyuki tells him she will follow him wherever he goes. Kokonoe-sensei is training Miyuki. Tatsuya catches wind of someone lurking and asks who is there. Konoe-sensei greets the person, calling her Haruka. It is their guidance counselor, and Tatsuya asks her why she is there. Sensei tells him that Haruka is his student. She apologizes for intruding and says it looks like Sensei was practicing his Mirage bat technique. Tatsuya tells her it would be nice if she would answer his question too. Sensei asks Haruka if he can tell them, and she reluctantly agrees. He tells them that she is a public safety investigator for the police department. Tatsuya tells her that her concealment spell was tremendous. She tells him that is the kind of magic she specializes in. She tells Tatsuya that she is counting on him to keep her investigator status off the record. He agrees and tells her that she has to keep him informed of any incidents like the Blanche fiasco that might happen. The students are playing soccer. It is an intense game, and Class E wins the game 9-2. Leo walks up to Yoshida and congratulates him on a good game. He tells Leo to call him by his first name, Mikihiko. Tatsuya asks if he would mind calling him Mikihiko and tells him to call him Tatsuya. Mikihiko says he has been wanting to talk to Tatsuya and Leo because he says it's not every day he meets people who have the stomach to put up with Erika. Leo is confused, and Tatsuya asks Mikihiko if he knows Erika from before. Erika comes up and says she and Mikihiko are childhood friends and says he has been avoiding her for the past 6 months. In the student council room, Mayumi briefs the council on the 9 schools competition. She says that contestants are chosen based on merit because each school's honor is on the line. Miyuki asks if the student council is taking the lead in preparing for the competition. Mayumi says yes, and adds that they've managed to finalize their roster thanks to Jumanji, but their issue is choosing an engineer. Marie asks if she's still short on technical staff, and she says yes, that the 3rd year is skewed towards practical skills. Mayumi asks Rin if she could take on the job of an engineer, but she says she would only end up thwarting Azusa and the other engineers. Mayumi is stumped, and as Tatsuya leaves the room, Azusa points out that he would fit the bill as he is the one who adjusts Miyuki's CAD. Mayumi jumps up in delight, and Tatsuya says that a first year has never been elected to the technical staff. He tells them that trust between engineer and user is a crucial part of CAD fine-tuning. He says appointing someone who may bring on backlash from athletes does not sound like a good idea. Miyuki steps in and says she would like her brother to fine-tune her CAD for the 9-school competition as well. Mayumi hammers on that and invites him to the prep session after school. While there, Azusa sees his silver horn and begins to fangirl over it. Mayumi reminds Azusa that she was supposed to finish her assignment during the lunch break. The student council nominates Tatsuya as a member of the engineering staff, and there is some uproar about it. Jumanji suggests a demonstration of his abilities. Kirihara volunteers, and Tatsuya is given the task of copying Kirihara's CAD settings to another CAD for competitive use and making it immediately usable without tampering with the activation sequence. He says he'll take a safety-first approach and begins to work. When he is done, Kirihara tries it, and it works perfectly. Jumanji supports Tatsuya. At home, Tatsuya gets on a video call with Major, who calls him Special Officer. He has work for him to do, and they schedule a time for him to do it. They talk about the 9-school competition, and Major tells him to watch his back because a crime syndicate may be targeting the competition. Tatsuya thanked him for the information. Later, Miyuki brings him coffee wearing her Mirage bat costume, and he compliments her on it. He uses the flying spell, and she is ecstatic about that, and compliments him. He gives her something to try out. It is a prototype of the flying spell, and as she uses it, He asks her how it feels. Tatsuya and Miyuki arrive at the FLT Development Center and are given a warm welcome. The staff calls Tatsuya Young Master, and he asks them where he can find Chief Ushiyama. Ushiyama appears, and Tatsuya apologizes for requesting an audience when he is so busy. He tells Tatsuya that they are all his subordinates, and that it is an honor for them to be able to work under him. Tatsuya tells Ushiyama that there would be no Taurus Silver if it weren't for Mr. Taurus, the head of the facility. He tells Mr. Ushiyama that without his technical expertise, the loopcast system would never have become a reality. They go to talk business, and Tatsuya presents Ushiyama with a prototype of a flying device. Ushiyama asks Tatsu how many T7 models they have on hand, and he says 10. He scolds him for not having more on hand, and requests for all of them. He says that the history of modern magic is about to change. Ushiyama has his workers test the prototype and they report as they go. The scientists are excited and baffled that the people are flying. All the testers rise into the air and the scientists are excited that flight is now possible. They thank Tatsuya again. Tatsuya looks at the results and says he was right to think that the successive processing of the activation sequence would be too stressful if they left it like that. Ushiyama confirms his assessment, and Tatsuya says they will have to make the CAD's automatic cyan absorption scheme more efficient, and Ushiyama says he will figure it out. He says if they can get the hardware to do more of the processing, it should take some of the load off. Tatsuya says he was planning to consult Ushiyama on that point. As the siblings leave, they come in contact with their father and Mr. Aoki. Aoki greets Miyuki and she draws his attention to the fact that she's not the only one there. Miyuki gets upset and shows off her ice power. In school, Tatsuya's classmates congratulate him on becoming an engineer. Leo says that word travels fast, and Erika says there is going to be an official announcement during that day's launch ceremony. Mizuki asks Tatsuya if he will attend, and he says yes. At the ceremony, the athletes and engineers stand in a line to be decorated. Tatsuya introduces himself to everyone. He tells them that in addition to fine-tuning CADs, he will be involved in creating training regimens and providing strategic support. Mizuki stands and watches students on the field when something catches her attention. She sees the aura in the school change, and she goes to check out the experiment building. She sees Mikihiko experimenting with spirits. Tatsuya comes to her rescue, and Mikihiko blames her. Tatsuya says he was experimenting with spirit magic. Mikihiko says he was using water spirits to practice his summoning magic. Tatsuya asks Mizuki what the spirits looked like. She tells him they are various shades of blue. Mikihiko is alarmed that she could see the various shades. They apologize to each other, and Mizuki says they should forget about it. Tatsuya asks Mikihiko about crystal eyes. He explains to Tatsuya that people who manipulate spirits identify them by color. He explains how it works. They decide to keep it to themselves. Mayumi is late to the bus designated to take them to the competition. She apologizes to Tatsuya and asks him what he thinks of her dress. He tells her it looks great on her, and they leave for the competition. Mayumi is upset with Tatsuya, and Rin scolds her for being upset about it. She tells Mayumi that her bewitching face might not have had any effect on Tatsuya. This annoys her even more. Hattori comes to speak to her and ends up looking at her legs. Rin gives up her seat for Hattori. Miyuki is angry that her brother stood outside for so long, and she begins to rant. Honoka and her friend remind Miyuki of how caring her brother is. A strange car careens towards the bus, and the students try to use their magic to stop it. A strange car swerves wildly on the road and tumbles over. It catches fire and approaches the bus. Everyone tries to use their powers to stop it, and Mari tells them to cancel their spells. She asks Jumonji if he can hold the car off. He says he cannot extinguish the fire at the same time. Miyuki says she can help extinguish the fire. Jumonji says he is counting on her. She extinguishes the fire and Jumonji stops the car. Mayumi asks everyone if they are all okay. She thanks Jumonji and Miyuki. She apologizes, and Mayumi reminds the students that the first thing to do in times of crisis is to stay calm and not to forget to communicate. Mari thinks about who canceled the magic sequences. They get to the lodgings in one piece. Hattori sees Miyuki talking to Tatsuya and looks at them suspiciously. His friend asks if anything is the matter, and he says there's nothing, and that his confidence took a little hit. Hattori says that if he is also a lesser magician than a girl younger than him, how is he supposed to not lose confidence? His friend says that there is something special about the Shiba siblings, and that Tatsuya has the air of someone who has seen combat before. He regales his experience with them at the Blanche headquarters. Kirihara says that a lot of the Course 2 are competent. Tatsuya says that the attack on their bus had traces of magic in it. He says the spells were cast from inside the car to hide that magic was being used. He says the driver cast the spell. As they walk in, they find Erika in the lobby of their lodgings. She says she came to cheer them in. Mizuki is also there, and Miyuki tells her that her outfit is quite revealing. She tells her to change. Miyuki asks if they are staying at the same lodgings, and they say yes. thanks to Erika. Miyuki asks Erika if she's okay with it. She clarifies that she doesn't like people being biased towards her because of her family name. She says it would be a waste not to use her family connections. They decide to attend the banquet. All the schools are gathered at the banquet. Erika sneaks in dressed as a waitress and goes to serve Tatsuya. He says he is impressed that she snuck herself in. Miyuki finds her and they talk about cosplay. Shizuru and Honoka come to meet Miyuki and tell her that people want to meet her. Tatsuya tells her to join the others, just as Erika drags Mikihiko to come meet them. She tells Tatsuya that Leo is in the kitchen, doing manual labor, and Mizuki is washing dishes. Erika and Mikihiko argue, and she sends him off to pick up empty plates. Tatsuya takes her to task on how she is treating Mikihiko and tells her to be a little nicer to him. She thanks him and runs away. Miyuki gazes at Tatsuya from across the room and thinks to herself that her brother is too oblivious to people's goodwill. Boys from other schools watch Miyuki and talk about her. The banquet begins, and the students are treated to a speech by Mr. Retsu Kudu, the chairman of the Magic Association, who is also the patriarch of the 10 master clans. Tatsuya assesses the man's magic because he used a magic trick on them. As he takes the stage, he tells them what he did and how only 5 people saw through his trick. He tells the students that magic is a means to an end and not the end in itself. He exhorts them to improve their skills and says he is looking forward to how creative they can be. Shizuku, Miyuki, and Honoka discuss what they want to do the next day. They talk about watching Mayumi's game until Ani comes knocking and tells them to join her at the hot springs. The girls are rowdy, and they play around in the hot springs. They remark on Miyuki's beauty and talk about boys. Mikihiko is outside summoning spirits when he notices that someone is around there. He tries to give chase, but he does not have enough power to do so. He decides to do it anyway. He finds out that there are 3 thieves, and he apprehends them with Tatsuya's help. Tatsuya finishes his work and makes his way back to the hotel. He uses his heightened senses to search the perimeter, and that's when he senses Mikihiko chasing the thieves. He runs to help him, dismantles the thieves' weapons, and incapacitates them. He shows himself to Mikihiko. He checks on the fallen thieves. Mikihiko points out that if Tatsuya had not come to his aid, he would have been shot. Tatsuya says what Mikihiko is saying is just a hypothesis, and that he successfully captured the thieves using his magic. He calls Mikihiko an idiot for discrediting himself and asks him what happened to make him think that way. Mikihiko tells him it doesn't matter anymore. Tatsuya asks Mikihiko if he is concerned about his casting speed. Mikihiko is surprised that Tatsuya knows and asks him if Erika told him. He says that there are too many superfluous components to his spells and adds that his talent is not the problem, his spells are. Mikihiko argues about it, and Tatsuya uses that opportunity to school him a little. He asks Mikihiko to call security. The first day of the tournament begins with an announcement of the format of the games and the predicted winners. At the battle board qualifiers venue, Tatsuya asks Honoka how she is doing. Miyuki tells him that Honoka is getting quite muscular, and Honoka tells her not to talk about it like that. The battle board event begins, and Mari is representing First High School. From the first bell, Mari is ahead in the game. Tatsuya assesses her magic and gives important commentary to the students from First High. Mari finishes in first position. Tatsuya goes to see Major Kazama in his room. He is with a bunch of men and they ask him to take a seat. He declines, and they tell him that they didn't call him there as Special Officer Ryuya Uguro, but as their friend, Shiba Tatsuya. He agrees to sit with them. They talk about the intruders from the day before and their suspicions that they are a terrorist group. They applaud his good sense to be on the scene, and he tells them what he is doing. He attends the quarterfinals to watch Mayumi compete. He asks about Mikihiko, and Erika tells him he's resting in his room because he isn't feeling well. Everyone cheers as Mayumi goes up to compete. She is fast and precise in her shooting and gets a perfect score. The student council girls meet to celebrate Mayumi's win. She congratulates Mari for getting to the semifinals of the battle board competition, and they talk about the games their school has won. They talk about Hattori's battle board game, and the topic changes to the choice of engineers for the games. They debate asking Tatsuya to be the engineer for the women's games the next day. They decide on that, and ask Miyuki to let her brother know. She agrees to do so, and goes to his room immediately. They talk about what he is working on, and then he tells her that she is more important than his work, and walks her back to her rooms. She tells him that he is more important to her than anything else. At the crowd ball qualifiers venue, Tatsuya is hard at work when Mayumi comes to tell him she is counting on him. He compliments her outfit, and she asks him to help with her stretches. He does that, and also helps her up. She thanks him, and says that she wonders what it's like to have a younger brother. He excuses himself to go check on other athletes. Izumi comes up and says she wants to take care of the CAD. Mayumi's game starts, and she aces it all. Kanon is pumped at her pillar's break and gives her all to ace it. The others discuss Kanon's strategy as she wins. They go to the First High Command Center to see the results and projections for winning. The girls, Leo and Mikihiko, come to Tatsuya's room to play. Erika asks him about the weapon on his table, and he tosses it to Leo, who takes a look at it and agrees to test it out. Leo goes to test out Tatsuya's new toy at the outdoor battle arena. He activates his magic and half of the toy breaks apart and rises in the air while the other half is still in his arms. Leo says that fortifying magic can work even when it is not physically connected. Tatsuya tells him that fortifying magic is defined by how it stabilizes relative positions. Leo says that it feels as though he is swinging a real sword, and it helps him because it keeps him from overthinking. Tatsuya says the next step is a live test. Leo gets to test the sword on the practice dummies. On the third day of the competition, everyone gathers at the battleboard venue to watch Mari's match. Mari takes the lead again, but not without stiff competition. Mari loses balance and both girls fall off their boards. Tatsuya makes a beeline for Mari, who is taken to hospital. When she wakes up, Mayumi is at her bedside. She tells her she is in the hospital with broken ribs. Mari asks how long it will take for her bones to set and heal, and Mayumi tells her it will take a week and that normal activities won't pose any problem after a day of bed rest, but she will have to abstain from strenuous activities for 10 days. Mayumi tells her that she will have to withdraw from Mirage as well. Mari asks how the race went, and Mayumi tells her that 7th High was disqualified for reckless conduct and 3rd and 9th High have advanced to the finals. Mayumi tells her that the girl from 7th High didn't have serious injuries and that her efforts to protect the girl weren't in vain. Mayumi tells Mari that Tatsuya carried her to the hospital and stayed with her while she was being treated. She tells her to thank him because he told the paramedics what to do. Mayumi asks her if she was hindered by a third party doing magic. Mayumi tells her that the reason she lost her balance before catching the 7th High girl must have been because of an illegal spell cast by a third party that interfered with the water's surface. Mari says she felt an unnatural swaying at her feet before she lost her balance. Mayumi confirms it and says that it can be attributed to phenomenon rewriting spells. Tatsuya looks at the footage and concludes that it is a third-party intervention. Kei says that the NSC hired magicians skilled in counter magic and stationed them in every arena, and they have a lot of surveillance cameras in place. He says that he is sure that some kind of sequence was launched from outside the surveillance network, but following Tatsuya's analysis that says that the force affecting the water's surface was generated from within the water. The only possible explanation is the presence of an operative lurking in the water. Mizuki and Mikihiko come to see Tatsuya, and he introduces them to Kei and Kanon. He debriefs them on the job and tells them his suspicions. They concluded that whatever was lurking in the waterway was not human. Mikihiko asks if Tatsuya thinks it might have been spirit magic. He asks Mikihiko if spirit magic can be used to cast a delayed spell. Mikihiko explains it to them. Tatsuya thinks that the 7th High student's CAD was tampered with. He believes that there is an operative amongst the tournament committee members. The 1st High students strategize on how to win the tournament. Mayumi sends for Tatsuya and Miyuki. They come in and are given the rundown. Rin tells them that they have decided to pour their resources into the official Mirage event even if it is at the expense of the Rookie event. They ask Miyuki to take Mari's place at the Mirage. Miyuki questions their decision and Mari explains and says Miyuki has what it takes to win. Tatsuya commits himself to the cause. On the 4th day, Tatsuya talks to Honoka, and he tells her he will watch her match. She is excited by this. He presents Shizuku's CAD to her, and she asks him to work for her family. He tells her they will talk about it after he gets his license. Miyuki comes with Honoka to watch Shizuku's shooting match. Shizuku is an ace in her speed shooting game, and the others run commentary on her technique. She gets a perfect score. Tatsuya congratulates her and gives her a pep talk. Tatsuya gives Shizuku a new CAD model for her next match, and she thanks him and tells him she will win. At the speed shooting venue, Shizuku is armed and ready to go. The tournament is in match mode, and she gets a perfect score. The 1st High students are excited about her win. Everyone is impressed with Tatsuya, especially Mayumi. Tatsuya corrects her and says that the people with the medals are the players and not him. She compliments the players, and Mari says his achievements cannot be denied. The players toast him, and Rin tells him that the university has approached 1st High about officially adopting Shizuku's magic into the Magic University's index. Mayumi asks if it would be registered as a new type of magic, and Rin says yes. Tatsuya asks them to name Shizuku as the developer and not him. Mari tells him that being overly modest can sound like sarcasm. He says he is not being modest and he just wants to be spared. The humiliation of not being able to use the magic registered in his name as the developer. Mari asks him how he confirmed the operability of magic that he cannot use. He says that it is not as though he cannot use it at all, but that it would take too long for him to activate it, so he's not at the level where he can use it. In Third High's Situation Room, they are plotting against First High. They are trying to figure out First High's advantage. They quickly pinpoint the ace as being the engineer. George says that Shizuku's device combined the speed and accuracy of a specialized CAD with the ability to process different types of activation sequences, which is the virtue of a generalized device. He says if all that was made possible by an engineer's skills, then it is far beyond school level and the work of a beast. They ask him if the engineer is that good, and they conclude that it is an uphill battle for them. At the battle board event the next day, Tatsuya comes to help the engineer, and Honoka tells him to look at her CAD. He scolds her for being disrespectful to Azusa by making such a request, and Honoka apologizes to her. She accepts the apology, and they go over the strategy for the preliminaries. Before the match begins, they talk about the magic Honoka has and how it ties into the rules. They all wear glasses. Honoka activates her magic and blinds the other contestants, placing her in the lead. She finishes first and comes to meet Tatsuya. She thanks him, and she cries because this is the first time she has won. She thanks him. In the Situation Room, the student council meets to plan their strategy. In Chinatown, the bookers confer on how to cook the books and make money. They admit to taking Mari out, and they decide to make a move. Tatsuya goes to his room to see Miyuki waiting for him and scolds her for being up late. He offers to walk her to her room, and she asks him to spare her a little of his time. He agrees, and she talks to him about the magic index and his motives for turning it down. He tells her that he didn't want his identity as Silver to come out, and he says that he doesn't have enough power to take down the Yotsuba family, so his only option is to obey. She hugs him and tells him she will always be on his side, and that his time will surely come. He hugs her back. At the Ice Pillars break venue, the crowd is seated in anticipation. Tatsuya asks Shizuku if she is going to compete, dressed in a kimono. She says she will, and she does. Tatsuya watches the match intently. Later, Honoka watches Tatsuya work and remembers his magic at the entrance examination. The crew comes to root for them, and he asks them if they shouldn't be sleeping. He tells Miyuki not to be nervous at the Ice Pillars break. She also shows up wearing a kimono and dominates the show. The other girl tries to use Inferno, but Miyuki puts her ice power to work and wins it. Everyone fangirls over her win and Tatsuya's engineering. Nanami says she might have won if Tatsuya was her engineer, which earns her a scolding from everyone. Morisaki is annoyed by all the Tatsuya praise and storms out to prove that blooms are superior to weeds. The scene opens up with a meeting between Ichijo Masaki and Kichijoji Shinkuro first-year students at Third High School, with Shiba Tatsuya and his partner Miyuki of First High School. Shiba asks what the Crimson Prince and Cardinal George want with him before the match. Masaki tells Shiba that if he knows about him and George, the competition should be quick and dirty. Shinkuro says she is going to remember the name Shiba, seeing as she hasn't heard the name before. She says Shiba is most likely the most prodigious engineer in the history of the 9 schools competition. It's the 6th day of the competition, and 3 of the competitors, the ones in blue, red, and yellow, are on their skateboards on the water, waiting for the signal to start skating. The players are using shades to participate in the race. Erika wonders why the use of shades. Mika says it is to counter Ms. Mitsui's optical magic, and it is the most affordable strategy. He asks Erika what is wrong, and Erika replies that they are just playing into Tatsuya-kun's hands. Mizuki asks if they will use the spray to blind the player's eyes this time. Erika says he doesn't see Tatsuya stooping to such a simplistic strategy like that. The gun is fired to start the race. Sagusa congratulates her players, Shiba-san, Kitayama-san, and Akichi-san, who swept the Rookie Women's Pillars Break Final League. Due to this, the tournament committee offered a proposal that regardless of the standings in the final, they would all share the same total points and asked if they wanted to skip the finals and have all of them share first place. Akichi-san objects, saying she is not feeling up to it and wants to withdraw. Kitayama-san says she wants to compete with Miyuki-san, and that's her only chance. Miyuki-san accepts the challenge. There was a match between Honoka and Shizuku in which Shizuku lost. In the dressing room after the match, Shizuku congratulates Honoka and expresses how she knew she was overmatched and how bitter she feels that she lost. Honoka comforts her by hugging her while she cries. Honoka offers to take her to tea and Shizuku accepts. Shiba Tatsuya narrates in his room the story of Ichijo's rise to prodigy. 3 years ago, when the new Soviet Union invaded Sado, he joined the defense line as a volunteer soldier and helped kill the enemy forces with rupture magic at the age of 13. As a result of the invasion, he became known as the Ichijo's Crimson Prince. He brought to reality the cardinal code that most people knew in theory, and no researcher didn't know his name. Shiba narrates that Ichijo and Kichijoji enrolling in the same grade at the same school is nearly a criminal coincidence. Miyuki and Shizuku meet Tatsuya-kun and tell him there was an accident where their members were attacked in the building. Shizuku objects that it was not an accident, that it was a deliberate attack on their members in the building. Miyuki says it's too early to make such rash statements, since there is no proof. Tatsuya-kun asks how Murasaki and the others are doing. Saigusa narrates the story of the attack. The match was held in an urban arena, and the students were subjected to a battering ram attack inside the deserted building. They were buried under the rubble. Saigusa says that after Mari's incident, Tatsuya-kun pointed out the possibility that the CAD had been tampered with, to which he replied, yes. She then goes on to say, the 4th High Staff swore that they didn't equip the CADs with battering ram. Saigusa asks if the incident was revenge or retaliation for what happened last spring. Tatsuya-kun says that it is different from the incident that happened last spring. He goes on to say that the night before the incident happened, there was an attack by 3 intruders in the hotel. He says it is a criminal syndicate based in Hong Kong that is responsible for these moves on this year's 9 schools competition. Saigusa thanks Tatsuya-kun for a job well done in making them have the points in the Monolith code. She suggests that Tatsuya-kun join the team to substitute the injured players, seeing he is capable enough for the job. Tatsuya-kun refuses. Then Jumonji-kun mentions how Tatsuya-kun is part of the team and shouldn't run away from the responsibility. Tatsuya, Mikihiko, and Leo plan out a strategy on how they will compete in the match. Tatsuya says he will be recalibrating their CAD, and there is no use objecting. The formation of the match is that Leo will take the defense. Leo asks what a defender does, and Tatsuya replies that a defender protects his own monolith from enemy attacks. He is to prevent the enemy from getting within 10 meters of the monolith, to prevent the enemy from reading the code. Tatsuya gives him a weapon to use for the match. It's the 8th day of the competition, and 1st High School has a match against 8th High School. Tatsuya is with Leo and Mikihiko. The match begins while Masaki and Shinkuro watch from a distance to see what Tatsuya is capable of. The match goes on with ease on Tatsuya's side, as he uses a Gram Demolition spell, which leaves everyone watching in shock. The Gram Demolition spell dismantles the spell of the opponents. Tatsuya gets to the monolith first, and it begins to open, then runs away. Leo goes to prevent the opponent from getting close to it, while Tatsuya knocks all the opponents out, which will make it easy to input all 512 characters of the monolith code. Masaki asks Shinkuro how to defeat Tatsuya in the match they just watched. Shinkuro gives an analysis of how they could defeat Tatsuya and his team. 1st High School plays against 2nd High School in the newcomers monolith code qualifiers, and 1st High School wins the match. Miyuki and Tatsuya are walking in a lobby. Miyuki advises Tatsuya to go and rest, but Tatsuya refuses, saying he wants to watch the match at 3rd High School at noon. On their way, they meet an angry dialogue between Tsugu, Mari, and Erika. Tsugu is meant to be in Thailand on business till the next week as a Kenjutsu instructor, and Erika is upset that he leaves the business to come see Mari. Tsugu explains he has everything under control and tells Erika that she has rude behavior as a daughter of the Chiba family. Tsuga tells Erika to apologize to Mari, which she refuses, and walks away meeting Miyuki and Tatsuya. Erika, Tatsuya, and Miyuki go to have a drink. Erika and Miyuki talk while Tatsuya gets the drink. Miyuki advises her not to call her brother stupid. Erika says Tatsuya will know about Big Bro Naotsugu. Miyuki tells her just because she is with them does not mean she should call Tsugu Big Bro Naotsugu. Erika gets furious that Miyuki reminds her about it. There is a match between 3rd High School and 8th High School. Everyone attacks the Ichiju, but nothing thrown at him affects him. The match is flawless. Saigusa is with Jumonji. She tells him that Ichiju's style of fighting is similar to his, and that he exceeds their expectation in the match. 1st High School matches with 9th High School, which ends flawlessly as 1st High School wins. Erika is alone staring at Mount Fuji when Mikihuki joins her. Mikihuki asks why she is here, and she replies that she wants to be alone. Erika calls him by his full name, and he is startled and becomes nervous. She tells him that he came to suffuse the energy from the mountain. He doesn't deny it and absorbs the energy. She tells him he can use some spells as easily as he breathes air. She tells him that if he continues this way, there will be nothing to fear from 3rd High. She tells him to give his all as she walks away. The finals of the Monolith Code will be played on the open plain stage as Shinkuro predicted. Masaki hopes that Tatsuya will take the bait, which Shinkuro assures him he would. As long as there are no obstacles in the open stage, Tatsuya will have no chance of winning unless he engages in a head-on, one-on-one shootout. Because he has the Gram Demolition trump card, he will want to use it as the only way out. When he uses it, that will seal Shinkura and Masaki's victory in the Monolith Code competition. It is the 8th day of the competition. Tatsuya gives Leo and Mikihiko a new set of mantles and robes for them to put on during the match. Tatsuya inscribes magic circles on the cloth. Tatsuya tells them that Cardinal George's invisible bullet can check for visual confirmation of whoever he wants to target. Using the mantle and robe will block the visual confirmation spell and prevent them from being seen by Cardinal George. Sagusa reminds Tatsuya that the fight will be on the open field. Tatsuya is preparing and training for the match in an open field. He thinks to himself how he doesn't have the surety that if he were to face Ichiju alone, he would defeat him, and talk more of Ichiju and Shinkura combined. Miyuki walks in with a towel for him. She reminds him that today is the final, and their opponents are strong, and he must fight with his powers and skills restricted. And even though she is not qualified to tell him this, she says she believes no one can defeat him and runs away. The match between First High School and Third High School is about to begin, and the spectators are already seated. Leo, Mikihiko, and Tatsuya are on the field ready for the match. Leo and Mikihiko are voicing discontent with the clothes they are wearing. They ask Tatsuya why he is not wearing the same cloth, and he replies that the cloth will prevent him from running, seeing he is the vanguard of the team. Masaki and George are at the other end of the field observing the spirits swarming around the robe and the mantle. They know that the robe is meant to stand against the invisible bullet. George says he doesn't understand how Tatsuya still has a secret weapon he has not used yet. Masaki tells him he should stop thinking about what they don't understand and be confident that no matter what Tatsuya tries to do, they won't be able to defeat them. The match begins. Tatsuya and Masaki start firing at each other while walking toward themselves, and none is affected by the other's shot. George is thinking of a strategy to fight, and he moves in to fight. Tatsuya sees him and dashes forward to meet him, but can't because of Mofaki's attacks. George meets Leo and Mikihiko and has a hard time fighting them. Masaki comes to his aid and wards them off. Before Masaki can regain himself, Tatsuya comes, and in panic, Masaki goes against the rule out of impulse and regrets it immediately. The attack affects Tatsuya, and he is restored immediately. Without warning of the restoration, Masaki is caught off guard, and Tatsuya snaps his fingers by Masaki's ears and amplifies the sound, which drops him down instantly. Tatsuya bleeds. Saigasu is concerned why Tatsuya is still up fighting after the attack. Jumonji tells her Tatsuya can restore himself. Mikihiko confronts George in the match, uses illusion magic, and confuses George before striking. They fought on, and First High School won the match. Some people in the spectator stand cheer for the winners and some cry because their team lost. Tatsuya tells Leo that he finally stole the spotlight of the crowd and asks if it has been his plan. Leo replies it was only in his dreams that though he was immobile due to Ichiju's strike, he stood and fought. He said he was able to get up because the last time he was slammed like that was 2 years ago when he was hit by a big motorcycle which affected 3 of his ribs. The attack he received today is a breeze compared to what he received during the match. Mikihiko asks Leo if he used fortifying magic to block the compressed air bullets shot at him. Leo says he did it and is ashamed about it. Leo asks Mikihiko if he is okay seeing he is bleeding in his mouth, to which he replies, yes. Leo then asks Tatsuya if he is okay. Tatsuya says they speak again and he can't hear properly. He says he is reading their lips to get what they are saying because one of his ears is ruptured from the fight. It comes to an end with Miyuki and Tatsuya staring at each other. The scene starts with a meeting. The topic in view is First High victory. The meeting is between 5 people. The first member says if First High goes on to win, their losses will exceed $100 million. Another member rebukes him and asks if he wants to give up, as that will be the same as sitting there to die. The third member says with this huge loss, they won't be allowed to die that easily. They decide to send their collaborators, some agents. For Mirage Bat, they will have all First High members withdraw by force from the competition. If their luck holds out, they won't die, and if otherwise, they were not lucky. Tatsuya and Miyuki are discussing the camp. Tatsuya says the weather is good for Mirage Bat, and it looks like the calm before a storm. Miyuki asks if something else could happen. Tatsuya says he doesn't know their objective. He says he does not have proof that something is happening or nothing happening. He tells Miyuki not to worry that even if someone does not protect her, he is going to protect her. It's Mirage Bat's first match on August 14th. The first match is between Ms. Kobayakawa Keiko, who looks fired up for the match from First High School, Ms. Hasegawa Chihiro from Third High School, Ms. Kutani Erika from Fifth High School, and Ms. Tozawa Natsumi from 6th High School match. Tatsuya tells Miyuki that depending on their results in Mirage Bat, their overall victory could be sealed. The match begins, and Miki, Mizuki, and Erika are in a conversation. Erika asks if Mizuki is okay without her glasses on. Mizuki replies that it is a little uncomfortable, and she can't run from averting her gaze from what is visible when she should be seeing it. She remembers how she averted her gaze when Ms. Watanabe got hurt, that if she had been focused, she could have helped Tatsuya. Erika says the concern for Mizuki is a little extraordinary. and his desire to protect her is obvious. Mizuki calls Tatsuya and tells him she saw a light by Ms. Kobayakawa's CAD. It looked like spirits bursting apart. Tatsuya thanks Mizuki and tells her she just gave him a piece of very useful information. Mizuki thanked him too. Miyuki asks Tatsuya what happened. Tatsuya says he will be able to pinpoint the problem. He then tells her to prepare for her match and reminds her not to worry, while he goes to check if her CAD is working properly. Patriarch Kudo asks if Tatsuya is from First High School, commends him for the match that was played the day before, and asks what is going on. Tatsuya tells him the CAD used by his school has been tampered with, and he has apprehended the culprit and is about to interrogate him about the person behind this. Patriarch Kudo holds Miyuki's CAD and affirms that a foreign element had been injected into it. He narrates a story of when he was still in active service. Patriarch Kudo tells Tatsuya to use a backup CAD, and there is no need to have it checked pre-match. He offers an opportunity to talk to him sometime. Tatsuya tells him if the opportunity arises. The match between Shiba Miyuki, Matsuo Yuko, Kamito Ayumi, and Akasaka Rina goes on, and they have a slim difference after the second period. Then Miyuki uses flying magic with the approval of Tatsuya and wins the match with it. Another meeting takes place and they are dismayed that their target made it to the final. A question was asked on what should be done. Should the tournament be called off, or should a generator be used to kill over 100 audience if the audience should suffice? They ask if number 17 will be enough to do the job of killing the people. He isn't allowed to bring his weapons in, but if the limiter is removed, he can kill with his bare hands. The limiter is removed and number 17 is released. Tatsuya thinks to himself that even though their attempt failed, nobody knew they would have gone as far as using a generator to plot a massacre. Mirage Bat finals take place, and Miyuki of First High School wins the competition. At the 9 schools competition lodgings, they are celebrating Miyuki's win in the Mirage Bat and First High School's overall victory. Erika says the NSC will be over the next day. She thinks Team Jumanji is a lock for their win the next day in Monolith Code. Miyuki is asked where Tatsuya is, and she tells them that he has already gone to bed. He said he was tired out. Haruka is with Tatsuya in a car to collect the information that he sent her to retrieve. She transfers it to him and asks if it's insurance, which he affirms. He comes out of the car while she drives away. Tatsuya enters another vehicle and is driven away. No Head Dragon is having a meeting. Japan's special forces show up, but their top priority is to get rid of Tatsuya. They have no clue about his background, no information on his family members, and no personal data. Tatsuya climbs the top of a building distant from where the No Head Dragon is having a meeting and aims the gun at one of the guards. This brings the meeting to a halt. Tatsuya calls, and Douglas Huang picks up the call. An introduction was made, and the No Head Dragon knows it is Tatsuya. He says he has come to return the favor of what happened at Fuji. Tatsuya eliminates the guards. The No Head Dragon member attempts to fire at Tatsuya and is shot directly into his right eye. Douglas tells Tatsuya that they won't interfere with the NSC again, and the No Head Dragon will withdraw from Japan. Tatsuya thanked him for his cooperation. Sagasu is with Jumanji, and she tells him how she received word from the clan meeting saying they can't allow any result undermining the power of the 10 master clans, as Tatsuya defeated Masaki in the final. She says as magicians, the 10 master clans reign at the top in the country, even if it is just high school students playing a game. Jumanji tells her they are seeking a contest that would flaunt the 10 master clans' power. Segasu tells him that even if it is just a branch, if only Tatsuya had the blood of the 10 master clans in his veins, he wouldn't be subjected to the third-rate farce. Jumanji tells her to leave it for him. Tatsuya and Miyuki are watching the semi-finals. Miyuki tells Tatsuya that is the Jumanji clan's phalanx. Miyuki says Jumanji is incredible as he wins the match. Tatsuya says yes, but his last attack is not how he normally uses phalanx. He tells her the genuine phalanx is a more terrifying spell. The announcer speaks over the speakers, bringing the National Magic High School Goodwill Magic Game Convention to a close. There is a party, and while the music is playing and the people are dancing, Tatsuya thinks to himself. He says though the long ceremony has come to an end, it is not over yet. He sees Masaki talking with Miyuki and walks over to them. He tells Masaki how it has been 2 days since they last saw each other. He asks after his hearing. Masaki tells him not to worry about him. He then discovers that there were brothers and sisters. Tatsuya asks if he didn't know before now. He then tells Miyuki to go and dance with Masaki. Then Honoka walks up to Tatsuya and stands there in an awkward way. After the dance, Jumanji asks Tatsuya to follow him. They go outside, and Jumanji asks him if he is a member of the 10 master clans, to which he replies no. Jumanji then tells him regarding the clan meeting. He is going to advise him as the magician who is serving as the assistant head of the Jumanji family. He tells Tatsuya to join the 10 master clans, and suggests he gets married to Saigusa. He replies that unlike Jumanji and the chairman chairwoman, he is still a student, and as such, marriage is still far from him. Jumonji tells him that the fact that he defeated Masaki, the next leader of the 10 master clans, carries far more weight than he thinks, and Jumonji walks away. Miyuki comes outside and asks to dance with her brother. In Yokohama Yamashita Pier, illegal aliens are ashore from a small cargo ship in Cargo Pier 5. Inspector China and Assistant Inspector Inagaki run to salvage the situation. Assistant Inspector Inagaki is older than Inspector Chiba and commands him to do some things on this basis. The area is well guarded by armed personnel. Chiba and Inagaki come out of their hiding and introduce themselves as police while telling them to freeze. The armed men fire at them, but they are brought down. Inagaki tells Chiba they should secure the ship, which is already on the move. Inspector Chiba tells Assistant Inspector Inagaki to secure the ship. Inagaki fires at the ship to stop it from moving. In Yokohama Chinatown, Mr. Zhou tells some men to get changed, and that he has breakfast prepared for them. The two men walk away, while Mr. Zhou bows to their exit. Tatsuya is in a computer room when Miyuki walks in. He asks her if it is okay for her to be here, and why she is not in the Students' Council. He said, the Student Council is just starting up, and as vice chairman, she is meant to be busy. She asks him what he is looking at. He tells her he is looking at a document on the Emerald Tablet. She tells him he has been searching out alchemy-related documents recently. He tells her he is not after knowledge, but he is still looking for the properties and formula to make a philosopher's stone. Miyuki asks him if he is attempting substance conversion, to which he says no. He explains that the philosopher's stone catalyzes spells that convert basic metals into precious metals. Since it is a catalyst, it is a tool to activate the spell. He tells her that if substance conversion magic can be accomplished without the use of any other magical processes, then the Philosopher's Stone may be capable of storing magic sequences. So he is looking for a way to store magic sequences. In the principal's office, the principal briefs Tatsuya about the Magic Association-hosted Thesis competition, which will be held at the end of the month. He tells Tatsuya that if the NSC can be considered a warriors contest, then the Thesis competition is a 9-school writers contest. He asks Tatsuya if he would do the honor of participating in the Thesis competition as a member of the first high team. The principal tells him, compiling the presentation materials is a team effort, and they considered Tatsuya as the best man for the job. The principal tells him that Ms. Ichiara will brief him about the competition, and he walks away. Ms. Ichiara tells Tatsuya she rejected others and chose him instead. He says the primary writer will be Ms. Ichiara. The topic is the technical feasibility of a gravity-controlled magic thermonuclear fusion reactor. Mrs. Ichiara tells him they have 3 weeks left until the thesis competition. Tatsuya says he will cooperate. Mrs. Ichiara gives Tatsuya a rundown of the competition. Miyuki and Tatsuya walk into their home and meet Ms. Sayuri. Tatsuya asks Sayuri what she wants. She replies that she wants him to come to assist her at the head office in the research lab and drop out of school if possible. He rejects it, saying Miyuki is still in school, and he must remain there to act as a guardian to her. He still refuses after much persuasion, after which she tells him just to analyze the sample, which is the relic of the Nino Magatama. She tells him, the Nino Magatama can store magical sequences that, though it is hypothetically proven, all relatable data has been provided. Tatsuya tells her that it cannot be duplicated, but if she insists. In a computer room, the leader asks what is going on. The reply is, they have successfully infiltrated the Yokohama Magicians Association. They have also secured on-site collaborators, and action has been taken. The leader says there have been attempts to steal the relic, but the attempt failed. The leader says if they can get the relic, the Great Asian Alliance magic combat power will skyrocket. He tells them to get ready at all costs. Ms. Ichiara meets Tatsuya in the hallway and asks him what he is doing there. He says he came to gather materials for the thesis competition. She tells him that she knows it happened suddenly for him, but for Rin, the significance of this year's theme goes far beyond winning and losing the competition, and that she is counting on him to help Rin. They converse about Ichihara's special motivation to pursue this topic. Ms. Ichiara says she hopes to raise magicians' social standing so that they will truly be released from their fate as weaponized humans. As they get into a room, she goes on to say that with this year's thesis, she'll be taking her first concrete step. Tatsuya says he's astonished that Ichihara and himself are thinking the same thing. PP asks him if Rin is his type, but he doesn't reply. He tells her that if there were no security cameras in the room, and people watching, and she offers herself to him, he wouldn't hesitate to partake of her. A warning sign shows up on the computer. Tatsuya tries to control the situation, and he succeeds. He tells Honoka to try to fix it. She tells him she can't, as that's not what she specializes in. He tells her to tell him him what she knows about the organization that's been buying and selling classified magic documents lately. She tells him that from the end of last month to the beginning of this month, there's been a series of unlawful entry cases in Yokohama and Yokosuka. He concludes by telling her that it can't be unrelated and that it has something to do with it. Tatsuya tells Kei that the hackers are going after the documents about magic theory, and considering the timing, it must be related to the competition. Kei asks him if Ichihara knows about it, and just then, two girls walk in. Mari tells Tatsuya that she wants to talk to him about security during the competition. She says she wants to discuss personal bodyguards for each team member and people to guard the presentation materials and equipment. She tells him that teams for the contest are sometimes targeted by industrial spies. She goes on to say that she is assigning Hattori and Kirihan as Ishihara's bodyguards. Tatsuya tells her that he doesn't need a bodyguard. As they step out, Tatsuya notices someone watching them. Mari runs after the spy. Tatsuya uses his magic to trap her in one position, but she accelerates her bike and speeds off yet still. There is a big explosion as she drives away. At the HQ, they talk about how Mr. Zhou rounded up members, and so they can't be discovered no matter what happens. The leader asks what is going on with the relics, and a team member replies saying that there is no sign that it was removed from the Four Leaves technology premises, and that its current location is unknown. They tell the leader that Tatsuya is the target of their local collaborators' revenge. He tells them to add First High School to their list of targets, and if need be, they should reallocate staff from other missions, that the girl should be given additional support and a weapon, and should be reminded that leaking classified information is an effective form of revenge. He tells Liu to take charge of on-site activities. He tells him to get rid of anyone sniffing around. In school, Tatsuya arrives in class. Shibata tells him that she can sense this unpleasant gaze like someone secretly peering into the cracks from the shadows. She says the stalker is not after her, but it looks like something ready to cast a wide net. Tatsuya tells her that it seems not to be targeting a single student, but a bunch of students' instructors. Mikihiko walks up to them, telling them that Shibata is right, and he bets that there has been an unfriendly frenzy in the spirits on campus, and he bets that someone evoked a Shiki. He says that it seems to be a different spell that they use, so he can't get a grasp of it. He says that there is no question that some spellcaster is somewhere sniffing around. After a series of questions by Tatsuya, Mikihiko says he doubts that the magic is part of their country's ancient magic. Inspector Chiba and his subordinate converse. His subordinate tells him that they are not coming up with any witnesses to the illegal entry incident, and that they should stop canvassing as they wouldn't find any witnesses if they walked further. Inspector Chiba responds and says that there are witnesses, but these witnesses won't talk, and he shouldn't worry as he wouldn't do any illegal thing. He says they need to follow the snake's path to find snakes, and that should head to the den of snakes. They arrive at Roderwald, and Inspector Chiba says that the guy who runs the place is a know-it-all and an information broker. Tatsuya walks with his team members, and they ask him if he is ready for the thesis competition. He replies by saying that they've reached a plateau, but they still need to work on a bit of detail. They tell Tatsuya that since he'd get busy the next day, they should stop to get some tea. At Roderwald, they meet a woman called Fujibayashi Kyoko. Inspector Chiba and his partner exchange greetings with her. Erika goes outside and meets a man. He tells her not to stay around till night, as she can get attacked by a street attacker. Leo shows up, and they prepare to attack the man, as Erika tells the man that a street attacker means a magician. She also tells him that there is no way to escape unless he knocks them unconscious. They begin to fight, but soon they overpower him. Leo asks him why he is following them. He says he is not their enemy, and his name is Jiro Marshall, and he is not affiliated with any government organization. He says his job is to monitor the magic high school students, to ensure that no cutting-edge magic falls into the hands of the East, and if it happens, could lead to military unrest. He tells them to lift the barrier, and Mikihiko does so. He tells them as he goes to warn their friends to be vigilant even though they're around the school. He goes away. Fujibayashi and the detectives talk for a while. She receives a phone call and steps out. She gets into her vehicle and says Tatsuya and his friends are a handful, and that even ancient magic leaves traces on the surveillance system. She continues to operate her computer. As Jiro runs away, he calls for replacement as he is spotted by surveillance. He encounters Liu on the way. He tries to fight him, but Liu beats him, kills him, and burns his body. Everyone watches as the room temperature plasma device is tested and is operating without a hitch. Kei tells him that Phase 1 is successful. Mibu sees a girl operating a device at a distance, and she runs after her. Maibu finally catches up to the girl, and they introduce themselves. The girl says her name is Hirakawa of Class 1G. The rest of the team meets up with Mibu. They ask Hirakawa if the Divis is a wireless password breaker. She tries to hide it, but Maibu tells her not to try it, and that she has worked for spies before. She advises her to cut ties with them immediately. Hirakawa tells them it has nothing to do with them, but Maibu responds sharply saying they would only use her and discard her. Hirakawa tells her she didn't team up with them because she wanted something. They start to fight, but they overpower her, hitting her to the ground. At the infirmary, Chiyoda asks the doctor about her condition. She responds saying that she'd be alright. Chiyoda tells the doctor to call her the moment she wakes up, as she has to go back to protecting Ichihara. The doctor tells her not to complain if Hirakawa escapes, as she has zero combat skills, and Chiyoda tells her she won't let any of her wounded escape. On the field, Sekimoto quarrels with Erika and Leo while wandering around. He continues to raise his voice until Chiyoda comes and asks what is going on. He explains to her, and she says there's no need to stop the first-year students from observing their experiments, and if there's a problem, those of them on guard duty would do the reprimanding. Chiyoda tells Erika that the incident can be viewed from another angle as a 4-against-1 fight. Erika and Leo say goodbye to Tatsuya and Miyuki and leave. Chiyoda receives a phone call, and she leaves with Kei. Chiyoda and Kei head back to the infirmary. They tell the doctor to sit Hirakawa up. Chiyoda asks Hirakawa why she tried to steal the data. Hirakawa tells her that her objective was to rewrite the program and disable the magic device for the presentation. Chiyoda tells her that depending on the outcome, she could have gotten herself expelled. Hirakawa says she doesn't care, as she did it out of spite, and all she wants is to get one over Tatsuya. She starts to cry. The doctor tells them that she has handed Hirakawa over to the Magic University-affiliated hospital for the night, and Chiyoda should pick her up in the morning. Leo and Erika are in a vehicle. Erika remembers the fight they had with Jiro. She says it shouldn't be that simple. Leo asks her if she wants to play detective so that they can smoke out the real culprit. She tells him that they should leave all of it to Tatsuya, except they'd be more counterattacking than defending. She goes on to say that there's still something lacking at the end, and that although Leo's latent skills as a foot soldier are first class, she thinks he's got the potential to surpass Hattori and Kirihara. She asks him if he has a trump card. He's confused, and she says that it is the kind of move that can kill his opponent for sure. He asks if she has one, and she affirms. She tells him that if he seriously wants to get involved, he should be ready to kill or be killed. She tells him she'd teach him the secret sword, and that it is the perfect move for him. Tatsuya and his friends are walking as they talk about Hirakawa and her elder sister. Chiyoda tells Tatsuya that he is her target, and he replies by saying they shouldn't involve her in this, and that they may be sisters, but she has nothing to do with this, so she isn't accountable. Later, Lord Chen tells Mr. Zhou that the girl in question has failed. B replies by saying that he understands his worries, but since they haven't revealed anything about their true identity to her, he doesn't believe there'd be any danger of information leaks. They converse about Hirakawa, and how thanks to her, he has learned quite a lot. Lord Chen tells him that he is counting on him to take care of any unexpected twist. Mr. Zhou responds by saying that in the next few days, he will appraise the situation himself. They continue to drink tea. At the dining hall, Tatsuya and his friends discuss Erika and Leo, and how they took the day off and are alone all by themselves, and contemplate if it is a coincidence or not, and they argue if both of them are a couple. Tatsuya gives his take, which is a conjecture layered over a hypothesis that Erika might be running Leo into the ground. Erika and Leo are seen training. Erika hits Leo at the back of his head for getting it wrong. Erika calls for a break and hands Leo a cup of water. They talk about the auxiliary spell, and Erika says it'd be faster to ask Tatsuya about it. Leo rejects the idea and says putting Tatsuya in trouble would be messing up their priorities. He says he would just have to master it himself. He stands up and goes back to training. At school, they have mock battle training. Mikihiko fights with Jimunji. He strikes lightning from where he is into the ground, and it reaches Jimunji. It breaks the ground, and Jimunji falls inside. Soon, it's break time, and they bring food for everyone on guard duty. Mikihiko is seen sitting alone, and Shibata brings food to him and sits down beside him. It starts to feel awkward, and so she stands to leave. She trips and almost falls, but Mikihiko catches her. She pulls away from him and runs away. Mizuki tells him to run after her, and he does so. At the temple, the priest asks Tatsuya if he obtained a rare item. He replies saying he's just holding on to it, and the priest says he should return it as soon as possible. The priest advises him that when he is facing the enemy, he should try not to lose his bearing, as any more questions would cost him dearly. As they head back, Tatsuya tells Mari that they're been followed by a crow. He says he doesn't want to reveal his powers under these circumstances. He tells her to hang on tight as he speeds away. At the development center, a team of computer operators is scanning for the hacking route to stop a hacker. Tatsuya returns and tells them not to stop what they're doing, and that they should continue monitoring. One of the computer operators says that they have been hacked, and for such a large-scale attack, he has no clue what they're after. They finally stop the unauthorized access, and the computer operator tells them that they're not to let their guards down, and for the rest of the day, They're to stay on full alert. Tatsuya tells them he has something to drop by. That's why he's there. The magical crow lands on the building, and Tatsuya destroys it. A team member at the HQ says their tracer has been obliterated. CCC says he doesn't care, and that at least they found out that Tatsuya brought the relic to FLT. They tell them that FLT is counterattacking, and he tells them to cut the line, and that he is sure they've broken Tatsuya's faith in the lab's security. He tells Lu that Joe will be going to check up on Hirakawa, and that he should get rid of her before he does. Miyuki walks into the room and sees Onisama talking to Hirakawa. They converse about the hacking, and how she sent her sister's log to him. As they step out, it starts to rain. She asks him what he is doing today, and he says he's supposed to do some debugging at the Robot Research Club, and that when he's done, he'll come pick her up at the Students' Council room. Tatsuya goes to the Research Club to work. He realizes that someone let out a sleeping gas in the air. He tells Pixie to activate the forced ventilation. He also tells it not to stop the intruder from coming in, as he wants to know who it is. Sekimoto walks in as Tatsuya pretends to sleep and tries to copy out some files from the computer. Chiyoda comes and stops him and tells him that he has been the academic industrial spy. He tells her he is only making a backup, and she responds by asking why he is making a backup with a hacking tool. Tatsuya stands up, and Chiyoda tells Sekimoto to remove his CAD and place it on the floor. He tries to attack her, but she defeats him, and he falls to the ground. Mr. Joe comes into the hospital with the flowers for Hirakawa. On his way to her room, he sees Lu also going to her room, so he finds a place to hide. He presses the riot alarm, and the alarm goes off. Tatsuya and Mari are on the ground floor, and they hurriedly rush towards the sound of the alarm. As Lu breaks the door handle, Tatsuya shows up, and they begin to fight. They fight on and on until Mari comes to Tatsuya. Lu runs away as the fight becomes intense. He jumps down from the 4th floor and lands on the ground. Mari asks who he is, and Tatsuya tells her his name is Lu, and he's a magician with the Great Alliance Special Ops Forces. Tatsuya gives a situation report to Fujibayashi, telling her that there was a break-in at the school. He tells her that it was a failed attempt though, but he had the humanoid home helper record everything that happened. She tells him not to worry, as the captain already told her to get it wrapped up sooner than later, and that he should stay tuned for more good news. Inspector Chiba meets Fujibayashi in her car and asks her what kind of information her private informant gave her. She tells him what the information is, and she says she's about to start her fox hunt. Tatsuya asks to see Sekimoto, but Chiyoda disagrees. They have a heated argument about it until she finally gives in. She says she'd allow Tatsuya to see Sekimoto if only he goes with Saigusa and Mari. Mr. Joe walks into Hirakawa's room with a bouquet. She asks him how he entered the hospital, and she says it's a miracle. He says even without magic, humans are capable of working miracles. She tells Mr. Joe that even though he went so far to help her, she still wouldn't do her job, and she is sorry. He tells her not to give it a second thought, and if it becomes a burden to her, it's alright for her to forget about him. She says alright, and that she'd forget about him. At the detention center, Tatsuya, Saigusa, and Mari go to see Sekimoto. Mari tells him she came to get an explanation. Sekimoto says he came to copy those files, and also to steal the relic from Tatsuya. As they continue conversing, the alarm goes out and they step out of the room and find Lu walking towards them. Tatum says they should be making their escape now, but it already looks like it's too late. Mari tells Tatsuya to look after Saigusa as she steps forward to fight Lu. After fighting for a while, Lu escapes from Mari and heads towards Tatsuya and Saigusa to attack them. Tatsuya cuts him in his lower abdomen and he starts to bleed. Mari continues to fight him on and on until she defeats him, and he falls to the ground in pain. Later at night, Tatsuya is seen giving reports to Fujibayashi. He asks her about the relic and where the leak originates. She replies saying that she is embarrassed to say, but the army's accounting data is being leaked, and so every single magic high research facility that has received payment from the army is targeted. He tells her thanks for going out of her way to contact him, and that she wishes him good luck at the contest in 2 days. In Yokohama, Lord Chen tells Mr. Zhou that he has been satisfied that the home country would be sending in worship, and thanks to him, they can launch their next operation. Mr. Zhou tells him that he can be of assistance to him. They converse about Lu's failure. Mr. Zhou tells him Lu would be transported to the foreign prison in Yokosuka tomorrow, and the timing couldn't be better. At school the next day, Erika converses with Tatsuya and the rest of their friends about the details of the competition scheduled to be held the next day. Tatsuya says they'd meet the others at 8, and the competition starts at 9. First High School will be taking charge at 3. Erika asks him for the demo device, and Tatsuya says the student council has hired a transport company to move it. Leo asks if they could join the guard details for the moving of the device, and he responds saying it's fine. They all request to help him, including Shibata and Mikihiko, but he says they should, instead, cheer them on from the audience. Ichihara and Mikihiko visit Hirakawa at the hospital. Ichihara tells her that her methods will not garner Tatsuya's attention, but would rather elicit neither enmity nor animosity from him. She goes on to tell Hirakawa about Tatsuya's accomplishments in the school, and Hirakawa responds by asking what that has to do with anything. She tells Hirakawa about her grade in magic engineering, and tells her she has the potential to surpass Tatsuya. She adds that if Hirakawa can hold on to her feelings of bitterness, she's sure that one day she'll find a way to accomplish it. As they step out, she tells her to come to the competition tomorrow, and that she's sure she'll find it rewarding. As they walk away from the room, Mikihiko asks Ichihara if she is fine, and she replies by saying she is, and that there's no need to worry, as it is just a bit of self-loathing. Inspector Chiba is seen having dinner with Fujibayashi, thanking her for helping them come so far with closing the case. She tells him that if he's available, she'd like to request his company tomorrow as well. He says if she wants him, he'd be there. She asks him how it's 8:30 a.m. at Sakuragicho Station. She asks him if he is aware of the competition, and he says he is. She asks him to come with his subordinates also, and they should come armed and equipped. He asks her what the plan is, and she responds saying that she hopes nothing will happen at the Thesis competition. At the Yokohama Conference Center, Hirakawa spots Fujibayashi walk in and go into the first high school waiting room. In the waiting room, Fujibayashi meets Miyuki and Tatsuya. She tells Miyuki it has been long since she last saw her. Tatsuya asks Fujibayashi if it is right to be visiting the first high green room, and she says that as a technical officer, there's nothing strange about her visiting them, the students who unveiled such dazzling skills at the NSC. She tells them that the mobile suit is now available, and Latin Sonata tells her to let them know that they'll be delivering it there by tonight. She tells them that another incident might happen, and although she has taken precautions, they never know if a battle is brewing. She hands them a memory card about the details of the incidents. She tells them finally that she's counting on them if anything happens. As Miyuki and Tatsuya leave the waiting room, they meet Mr. Tomitsuka on the way. Mr. Tomitsuka and Miyuki exchange pleasantries. He further tells her he is part of the security, and she wishes him good luck and tells him her mind is now at ease, knowing that he is patrolling the area. At the conference center cafe, Fujibayashi asks Hirakawa if she could join her at the table. Hirakawa is shocked that Fujibayashi tells her that Master Kokonoe has the highest praise for her, and she only expects that they respect each other's boundaries and nothing more. She then stands up and walks away. Hirakawa thinks to herself, saying that for Fujibayashi to warn her means that there's something about the relationship between Tatsuya and her that has to be kept secret. Fujibayashi receives intel that Liu has escaped. She is informed that his transport vehicle was attacked on its way to Yokosuka. The informants say that thanks to the weapons scheduled for tomorrow in Hodogaya, they'd be ready to mobilize. Fujibayashi says she'd be on the lookout for herself. At the conference center security HQ, Hattori and Kirihara present a report saying that Sekimoto and Hirakawa's sister were after the Thesis competition materials. She says that after testing Sekimoto today, he would need to be subjected to mind control. They go on to say that the organization Sekimoto works for might take drastic measures. They finish their report by saying that that's the message he was given by Saigusa. Jumonji tells them he wants them to monitor the perimeter of the convention center, and that he wants them to wear bulletproof vests. Jumonji then goes on to notify all the security units to put on bulletproof vests. The announcer calls on to First High School. She says their theme is a gravity control type thermonuclear reactor, and they are allotted 30 minutes. Ichihara starts her presentation. She goes on and on until she finally finishes, and the crowd applauds. The announcer says that they'd have a 10-minute break, and they'd continue afterward. A big van breaks through the gates of the Yamashita Pier control building. The self-detonating vehicle goes on to crash into the building. A fire explosion occurs. Inspector Chiba receives a call that the control building has been hit. He tells Fujibayashi he'd be heading there, and that she should call him if she needs him. At the conference center, Tatsuya and Miyuki converse about the bombing. He tells her that there are professional magicians with live combat experience in the security detail, and that her typical criminal organization wouldn't stand a chance. As they keep conversing, armed men come into the conference center and instruct them to remove their devices and set them on the floor. They instruct Onisama to drop his CAD on the floor unless they shoot. He hesitates and walks towards them. They shoot at him, and he catches all the bullets. As they see this, they begin to attack him. Onisama orders everyone around to attack them. They do so, and subdue them, placing them in handcuffs. The rest of the team meets up with Onisama and Miyuki. and they ask what they can do to help. Tatsuya tells them that the magicians on guard duty are still battling the intruders at the front entrance, and even if they're going to make a run for it, their first line of business should be to wipe them out. In Yokohama City, the fight continues to go on. The police try to evacuate people. Sagusa tells Azusa to use her magic to calm everyone down as they may soon start to panic. Sagusa addresses them and tells them that the city is under attack by an unidentified ship as well as by a terrorist group that has been seen lurking in the city. She adds that if anyone is evacuating to the shelter, they should please take the tunnel. She also says they should not immediately. She tells Azusa that she is now in charge and that she believes she can do it. At the conference center's main entrance, Tatsuya realizes the men are using anti-magic guns, so he stops Leo from attacking them, and instead, they hide. Tatsuya tells Miyuki to use her magic to silence their bullets. As she does it, the guns of the armed men stop working, so Tatsuya and his team attack them and defeat them. Leo asks what the next plan is, and Shizuku suggests that they use the VIP conference room so that they'd have access to lots of information. They go to the VIP conference room, and they realize that the situation is very dire. If they stay too long, they'd probably be captured by the enemy. But if they try to escape, there's no viable transportation. So they decide to relocate to the shelter. Tatsuya says they'd go above ground, as he needs enough time to destroy the demo devices. As they get backstage, they meet Saigusa destroying the data so it won't get stolen. Jumonji meets them, and they tell him what they're doing backstage. Tatsuya goes on to take care of the devices in the other room, and they all agree to meet in the green room when they are all done, as they decide on their next move there. In the waiting room, Sagusa tells them that the enemy is probably after the Magic Association's main database, because all the crucial data is being centrally managed in Kyoto and Yokohama. Mari tells them that, although the ship is arriving in 10 minutes, they'd have no chance of getting in it because of its small size. She also tells them that she believes their only option is to make their way to the shelter at the station. As they are talking, Onisama uses his magic to stop an explosive van heading to the conference center. At the entrance, Jumonji stops a supersonic launcher rocket from hitting the conference center. Sanada drives in and meets him there. They head for the waiting room, and a man named Major Kazama addresses them. He tells Fujibayashi to give them an appraisal of the situation. Major Kazama then tells Tatsuya and the rest of them that on behalf of the JSDF, he is mobilizing them, and he requests that this special officer's rank remain confidential. Sanada walks in and tells Tatsuya that the mobile suit he ordered is ready for him in the car. At the parking lot, the fight continues intensely. They keep on shooting at one another with so much determination. In a tunnel, Leo, Mikihiko, and Ki shoot at the armed soldiers. The contention becomes so strong that the armed men decide to retreat. In front of the conference center, Jumonji asks Fujibayashi if she wouldn't mind lending him a car. He says he's going to the Kanto Bridge of the Magic Association when asked by Fujibayashi where he is going. He says he might just be the acting leader, but he has to fulfill his responsibilities as a member of the Master Clan Conference. She agrees for him to go, and she asks two other soldiers to escort him there. They bow to her as the three of them take their leave. At the underground passageway exit, Azusa finds a door and runs towards it. There is a rumbling in the earth, and everyone is advised to get down. A large weight of earth falls from the top, and Mr. Tsuzura holds onto it with his magic. He tells them he can't keep up much longer. He urges everyone to hurry to the shelter. Close to the station plaza, Leo, Saigusa, and the rest of the team continue to walk onwards. Saigusa says they can't evacuate to the shelter from this entrance anymore. She goes on to say she'd call for helicopters from their father's company and try to take everyone who got left behind and evacuate them from the air. Mari says she'd contact her father too, and Fujibayashi says in that case, she'll be happy to leave some of her subordinates behind. Inspector Chiba comes to them, telling Fujibayashi that it won't be necessary as eliminating external enemies is the military's job, but it's the police's job to protect the people. He then tells Fujibayashi to go along, as he would handle it from here. Tatsuya follows two soldiers, and he puts on the mobile suit. He is told that the flying unit is hidden inside the belt. Tatsuya tells them it's an upgrade from his original design. They tell him to join Yangi's unit. Tatsuya flies to the sky and shoots out the camera from the drone. At the HQ, they report that they've lost footage from their unmanned drone heading for Hodogaya. At the conference center parking lot, Masaki tells George that he's going to the Kanto branch of the Magic Association. He says he's going to join up with the volunteer army there. Tatsuya joins up with Yangi's unit. They brief him on who the enemy is. They tell them the sorcery booster is a device supplied by the no-head dragons for amplifying magic. Tatsuya realizes that the enemy is the Great Alliance after all. Tatsuya is told that are heading for the plaza to help evacuate the civilians. As Sagusa and the rest continue fighting the robots, the helicopters arrive and evacuate the people safely. Tatsuya reports back to the military team that Sagusa has boarded the helicopter and she'll be picking up classmates and underclassmen and then would be withdrawing from the area. He's told that the moment they leave the target zone, he is to rejoin the unit. At the Yokohama Bay Hills Tower, the army runs towards the fight, and the battle thrives on. Soon the enemy is overpowered, and they start to retreat. As they fight, a bullet is shot by the robots, and it hits Kei on his leg. Another hits another's back. Miyuki calls Onisama to come assist them. As he flies down, he uses his magic to restore Kei's body to normal, as well as everybody injured. After the complete restoration of Kei and the rest, he hugs Miyuki and tells her that she did great. There is lots of shooting at the crime scene. Tatsuya raises the dead amongst the members of his team as they continue to make advances at the enemy territories. Inside the disguised Great Alliance landing ship, they report that it seems that the tanks were wiped out in a powerful assault by an aerial unit using flying type of magic. At the Bay Hill Tower, the enemies retreat as Jumanji calls his men to continue in their advance. In Chinatown, Masaki stands before a door and orders that the door be opened, or they'd be viewed as being in league with the invaders. As the door opens, Mr. Zhou steps out. He introduces himself to Masaki. Mr. Zhou tells Masaki that they are not affiliated with the invaders, and as a matter of fact, they too are victims. He says they are cooperating with them in hopes that they'll recognize the fact. Masaki tells him that he's grateful for their assistance. In the helicopter, they discuss the events that happened before they boarded the helicopter, how they almost died, and it wasn't a hallucination. Mira asks Miyuki what kind of spell Tatsuya is casting, and if it is healing magic. Miyuki says the spell that Onisama cast isn't healing magic, and that the name of the spell is regrowth. She tells them that going back by 24 hours, Onisama makes a full copy of Eidos before sustaining injury, and that this is overwritten onto the current Eidos and restored to its state before the injury occurred. She goes on to say that, because of this special magic, Onisama is unable to wield other types of magic freely, because his magic calculation area is dominated by this godlike power. He simply has no capacity for any other kind of magic. As they talk about how amazing Tatsuya's ability is, and how not being able to use other magic is a minor trade-off, Miyuki tells them that there are side effects. She tells them that to rewind the Eidos changelog and make a full copy, the stored information must be read in its entirety, and that includes the pain and suffering experienced by the injured party. She also says that this pain and suffering is transmitted instantaneously in condensed form. Lord Chen tells Lu to forget about revenge, and that from the get-go, their mistake was obsessing over a relic of unknown value. As they approach the Bay Hills Tower, Mizuki says she feels the presence of a beast-like aura. Lu comes down from the van with the rest of his men, and they attack the people in front of the tower. Mari and Saigusa go to fight Lu, while Erika and Saijo offer a helping hand. As the fight progresses, Lu seems too strong for them, but Saigusa shows up and uses her magic to defeat him. He falls to the ground. Inside the Bay Tower, Lord Chen goes into the Magic Association branch. He meets Miyuki inside. Chen is surprised that his spell didn't affect her, and she says that she has been warned not to lose her bearing, and that alone means nothing to her. After she talks for a while, she goes on to freeze him on the spot. As the fight goes on and on by the bay, Captain Yongi receives word from Fujibayashi to refrain from any direct attacks on the enemy ship. She goes on to explain that the enemy ship is equipped with hydrazine fuel batteries, and if they were to damage the vessel in Tokyo Bay, the adverse effects on marine life would be too severe. She advises him to retreat and to let the other teams handle the operation. On the rooftop, as they discuss the aftermath of the whole fight, the Major tells them to unlock the third eye seal. As the enemy side retreats, they plot how they'd take revenge on them. While they're busy in their conversation, Tatsuya shoots from the third eye seal, consuming the enemy's ship. The Major tells Fujibayashi that the third eye seal has lived up to its design. They receive word that the Great Asian Alliance is now gathering in Genhai Naval Port, and they have been ordered to deal with them at the Geojedo base. Miyuki converses with Aunt Maya about the state of affairs. She apologizes to Aunt Maya for making her worried about them. Aunt Maya says hearing from her puts her mind at ease, and that they both should stop by the mansion sometime. At the base, the army gets a briefing about the battle ahead. They are told that the operation has already been approved by the Joint Staff Council. They prepare to activate the mass energy conversion magic spell material burst. Tatsuya shoots and the material burst consumes the enemy fleet completely. They receive word that the enemy fleet has been obliterated.